Well, here we are. Here we are at last. Kind of a sad reminder that we're towards the end of the year already, and I have so much work to do that I decided to kind of throw this into my usual October lineup where I usually just do Lazy Ween, but to get this done and over with, and then I can try to do the two top tens in November and then save the last top tens in December. Yeah, so end of the year list. So let's start things off the way it's supposed to. Greetings, geeks and nerds. I'm Lazy Universe. I'm White Nerdy, and welcome to Lazy Universe Top 10. Of this is the top 10 comic books of the year. Now I'm gonna make this point right off bat, but for now until the end of the year, like no matter what comic book I read that impresses me, it's just gonna be on the top 10 whether I review it or not. Like a lot of the things that I have in my collection, some of them I do actually want to review. Like for example, go back and review like the Geoff John JSA run, or go back and review Division by Tom King, or review Go Go Power Rangers again. Like there's just so much stuff that I want to go back and do that it's not on a top 10. Like maybe even I have to heavily censor it, but maybe go back and review Mount Musume and show people just how funny that this manga series can be and everything. So there is just so much that I want to go back and redo, but not everything that's in my collection is obviously going to make a good video or not. It just all depends on how everything goes. Uh, so that's going to be the new rule from now on. Also, I don't think I have to buy any more comic books at the moment because I have plenty that I haven't even gotten to doing a proper video on yet, so there's just so much I haven't gotten around to doing yet. But that's why next year is so fun. I'm gonna try to get more comic books and manga done for next year. But with that all said and done, you guys know the rules. These are comic books I've read this year. This is just my list, and these are just my opinion. So with that all said and away, and with this long intro done and over with, here it is, the top 10 comic books I've read of 2025. And some of these comics I haven't gotten to reviewing yet, like Immortal Hulk. Yeah, that'll be coming. Yeah, because it is on this list. Just letting people know that I haven't properly reviewed it yet, but we're still doing this list anyway today. So let's get this done and over with, and let's start the countdown. Number 10, Hooky. Now, a lot of people might be confused about this, but Hooky actually was on a Lazy Wing schedule this year until I properly read through it and was like, this honestly wouldn't make it on the list for Lazy Wing reviews. So, but I still enjoyed it. Hooky is a delightful webtoon turned into a comic book series about two twin witches who just so happen to be mixed up in something far more worse and far more mysterious than the two of them could ever realize, pulling them down a rabbit hole of darkness, of treachery, of deception. And foremost, this is a wonderful comic book series that I spent time reading. It was wonderfully enjoyable with such great characters, especially the twins themselves. But I just couldn't bring myself to review it because there was just so much that happens that you have to try to catch up on so much nonsense that ends up going on between these two characters. So, for people that like Harry Potter and stuff like that, this is definitely up their alley. This is a wonderful, terrific magical series that you can watch, and I bought all three volumes for relatively cheap, so, I mean, it's even free, I think, to read online, so give it what you can. But, yeah, this is a really enjoyable book with such great, wonderful, and imaginative characters and a really good imaginative world that was created by just one single person, mind you. That's pretty incredible. At number 9, Jujutsu Kaisen. Yeah, this one's on the list. And unfortunately, I really do think that Jujutsu Kaisen, especially for its first volume, really could have outdone itself and done pretty much better. This is a story of a young man who just so happened to get mixed up and involved in the world of the uncanny, the world of the unknown, the world of the mysterious. Basically, he gets to believe that demons that necessarily exist in this world, and that's exactly what he come to know and what he come to explore. But that's not necessarily a good thing, as he has a demon that's full on possessing him, and he had no idea what's going to happen to him in the end of things. But he just goes along with the flow and decides, well, if I'm going to end up saving the world with my what my grandfather told me. I have to do something worthwhile, and I gotta live up to my expectations. To which he does, but it's really pretty much like a bad sort of, hey, I'm gonna do something to help people. That's a great admit trait, but in the sense, it really could have done better, and I necessarily mean that. And this is a series that really could have done better, especially for its very first outing. At number 8, Unico Volume 1 or Unico Awakening. I gotta agree with most of my subscribers that ended up commenting on my Unico review that it honestly have gorgeous artwork, but it could have been better. But I have to say that even though it was pretty shit and it did not meet expectations that I had for the story, it was still pretty damn good, especially for a children's manga series. This was just a really damn all around pretty good story, especially having some dark twists and turns and everything that I think even a child would enjoy, truthfully, and a great, cute, colorful cast of characters, especially with Unico and his pals that he hangs around with. And I honestly want to see where the story goes, and I've heard rumors that the manga series from this point on, it gets even more terrifying or it gets even more scarier, so I'd like to think of Unico turning into a small horror manga for children to really enjoy. But as it is, yeah, man, I can't lie. I did enjoy the reboot of Unico. I thought it was pretty damn decent, really good. The artwork is pleasurable. The story, I have to agree with my subscribers. The story really could have been better. That is a plus, and I will give the story that. But aside from that, it really is pretty damn decent for what it's worth. And I cannot wait to see where the second volume goes. Yes, I have bought the second volume. I'm looking at it next year. But I am really excited and hopefully that the story will get better and hopefully that they will improve on the mistakes that they made. At number 7, Dragon Ball Z Volume 1. Man, do I even need to say with the legacy that this manga left behind, what Akira Toriyama set out to do with making the world's greatest fighting manga? Do I really need to be here to say this? Alright, I will admit, even though for the first volume it wasn't that great, it set up something that cannot, and I do mean cannot, be ignored and cannot be denied of the legacy that it left behind. Dragon Ball Z was the manga that Akira Toriyama set it out to do long when he first started the pages of Dragon Ball, but it made sense that he didn't know how to because that was his very first manga. And yeah, if you go back and read Dragon Ball and compare it to Dragon Ball Z, you can honestly see the differences in between it. But honestly, Dragon Ball Z is really damn good. Unfortunately for the first volume, it takes quite some time before it officially gets taken off. It takes a really long time before things pick up. But, in all honesty, it still was really enjoyable, creating a great cast of characters that we already knew from Dragon Ball, but increasing on their legacy that they left behind, which I think is so damn wonderful. And to know that this manga will forever encapsulate the world and that the legacy of Akira Toriyama will never die, that is truly something magical that I myself cannot deny that it will forever live on in my heart, and I will pass down this legacy to even my children, grandchildren, whatever have you, because Dragon Ball Z, while, yeah, the first volume could have been better, you cannot deny the legacy that it left behind. Number 6, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin. Ah, yes, The Last Ronin. What can be said that pretty much already had been said, especially with the movie coming out and everything. This was Kevin Eastman and Peter Lair's basically final send-off for the TMNT series, and was it worth it? On one hand, yes, but on the other hand, I'm sorry to say, no. This is a really good comic book. I will give you that. And for Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird to come in here and give one final send off to their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle line, that is pretty much authentic, and it's something great to be explored, especially with the mystery of the Last Ronin. You have to figure out what turtle that is, which if you saw my review, you already know who it is, which you can go and watch that to see if you can try to figure it out. But as far as as it goes, yeah, the Last Ronin is such a wonderful and terrific story, but was a reveal that they should have saved until the ending. Yeah, the reveal of the turtle happens right in the first chapter of this thing. Not kidding. They reveal who the Last Ronin is within basically the first chapter of the comic series, which is insane. They should have saved it until the ending, which would have made more of an impact. But bringing back such legendary characters, passing on the torch to someone else, realizing that the person who survived the ordeal is actually suffering a lot more than he wishes to admit, yeah, this is a great comic book series. Again, if the twist of the reveal of the turtle was at the ending, this probably would be in the top 5. But it's not. But you should still check out The Last Ronin, especially with the movie coming up. Number 5 is Jeffverse. This is just one of the cutest comic books I've read. It reminds me a lot of Spider-Man Animals Assemble, but this is even more cuter with just so many short stories involving Jeff the Land Shark. It is impossible to ignore how good this is, just in the sense of how adorable they made this. It's just Jeff going on his adventures, seeing what he can do, coming across friends along the way, getting into some mischief because that's what he's known to do, but he's still a lovable scamp no matter which way that you put it, and I did enjoy this comic book. I just bought it thinking, yeah, okay, this might be a fun video to do, it might be a fun video to realize, until I realized, oh my goodness, this is so damn adorable, and I really need more of this in my life. This is just one of the cutest, downright grateful comic books that you can ever read, even if it's for kids. I still say if you're an adult, you still get a kick out of how damn impressive that this comic is. Number 4, One Piece Ace's Story. This is really damn good for giving us a backstory to Ace from One Piece. Ace, if you remember, was Luffy's brother who ended up getting fisted by Okainu. And no, ladies, not in that best way possible, in the most painful, burning way possible. This is the story of Ace when he finally joins the Whitebeard Pirates, when he finally makes a name for himself, when he takes the legacy his old man gave him, that his old man passed down to him, and said, screw it, I want to do what's right. I want to be like my brother. I want to be a pirate. And so he does. Ended up taking up the mantle even bigger than he could expect, even bigger than he can imagine. And for Boichi to come in here and do this awesome reimagining of the origin story of Ace, that is something wonderful that you can never expect to see ever more in a story. And yes, it does have a short story comic that involves Nami in the most ass way possible. She usually did a lot of ass shots. But it is such a wonderful story that really engages in the memory of what Ace left behind, not just for One Piece, but for One Piece fans everywhere and for Ace fans everywhere. Number 3, Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Frights. I'm not the biggest Five Nights at Freddy's fan. I think I made that point pretty clear throughout my entirety life of YouTube, but I always said that the lore behind Five Nights at Freddy's is what made it so terrifying to me, not just the cheap jump scares. And this comic book is proof that the lore behind the restaurant and the animatronic is much more creepier than the restaurant itself. This short story collection is probably one of the creepiest things that you can ever come across. It's almost like Goosebumps or Tales from the Crypt, where that it sets up a story and then it starts setting more up much more and more behind the scenes. And you know what the worst part about that? Is that you never know what these stories have planned for them, which is why it was so good for me to review for Lazy Ween. Who would think that something like this would make me go, hey, you know what? That's really creepy, and also insanely really cool. It's full of not in your face horror, but more of this slow building suspenseful horror, which I have to say I'm much more of a fan of. Seeing these slow, suspenseful stories really build up into something much more maniacal, and much more on the bar of yes, there can be a lot of threatening stuff in these horror films. Yes, there can be such slow horror films that build up into something better. And that's what I love so much. The suspense building behind the horror. Not just going, jump scare in your face moment. No, I love these subtle build ups into something even creepier. And this comic is proof that you can pay this off. You can do this thing well. And you can have yourself such a wonderful, terrifying time of things that go bump in the night, of things that can haunt you and terrify you. And this comic definitely was worth it of that. Number two, Batgirl Returns. It's hard to imagine that I would become a Gail Simone fan just reading her Batgirl run, but Jesus Christ, this woman really understands Batgirl as a character and wrote her in probably my most favorite way ever thought possible. This is Batgirl after being traumatized, injured, pushed to the point of no return with the Joker, finally putting on her suit and going, you know what? Screw it. I can't lay around anymore. I can't just hide myself behind the face of Barbara Gordon. I know who I am. I'm goddamn Batgirl, and I'm gonna show the world just what Batgirl means to me. And the way that Gail Simone had managed to do this with Barbara Gordon, having her beat her trauma, kick the motherfucking Joker's ass all over the place, wipe the floor clean with him, and give us a creepy ensemble of characters that you would never forget, including Batgirl's roommate, who just so happened to be transgendered. I would fell in love with him or her. She was one of my, or he was one of my all-time favorite characters in this, and I loved the relationship that Barbara had with her. This was just really downright enjoyable to read, especially how Gail really encapsulated going, yes, Batgirl is a character with a lot of background. And she handled that like a pro, really giving us such a wonderful ensemble for Batgirl. And this almost became my top number one comic book of the year. But it just had to be beaten by one large overseeing giant. And my number one favorite comic book of the year goes to The Immortal Hulk. Oh, yes, The Immortal Hulk was a great written series. I've always had people recommend it to me, and I'm not the biggest Hulk fan. This story probably turned me back into a Hulk fan like I was back when I was a little boy. The Immortal Hulk is a horror comic book series that really capitalized on why the Hulk is a horror character and everything that he goes through. Why is the Hulk such the strongest one there is? Well, he's not just the strongest one there is because of the gamma rays. No, they gave Hulk much more of a creepier ensemble. The Hulk isn't just the strongest one there is. He's a defender of something even bigger than he can realize. He's a defender of the Green Door, or the Green, a gamma-irradiated world that the Hulk was born from, and that he just so happened to become bonded with David Bruce Banner when Bruce was hit by the gamma bomb. This story really goes back to the Hulk's root, about making him a horror character, and you know what? It's all the better for it. Ruin capitalizing on Bruce's horror that he had in the past. He had an abusive father. He never was happy in his life. He was always afraid of bringing out the Hulk because he knew what the Hulk represented to him. And then finally Bruce said, screw it. If I'm a monster, I'm going to live up to that title. And finally, he did. Really bringing out the best of himself. Really capitalizing, I might be a monster. I might always be a monster. But if I have to be a monster, then why can't I just fully accept that and fully accept the Hulk into my life? This was a story that made me tear up at the end when the Hulk and David Banner, or Bruce Banner, sorry, Incredible Hulk series, became together and finally accepted each other in their lives for the better. And that was the moment that sold me on just how great the Immortal Hulk is. And if you haven't read the Immortal Hulk yet, you really need to, because this is probably one of the greatest comic books that you could ever read in your entire life. And that's going to do it, guys. That is my top 10 favorite comic books of the year. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And what was your favorite comic or manga that you've read this year? Let me know in the comments down below as well. Also, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell icon to be notified every single time I make an upload. And next month, we'll be doing with the top 10 anime of the year with a small little disclaimer I have to make in that video. A small change we'll be making to the channel with that little video. And also then I'll be doing with the top 10 worst films next month. Okay. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Blazing Universe. I want to keep it on. This was the Blazing Universe Top 10. More Top 10 to come. So join me back here next time for the Top 10 Best Anime and the Top 10 Worst Films of 2025. So thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, keep it on and take care.